That's carried. Thank you. Okay, now we are moving down to page 10, item 3A, Emergency Management Agency Annual Update. Interim Lenderman.
So today we have our Director of Emergency Management, Brian Powell, here to provide his annual update on emergency management.
The floor is yours.
Thank you, Your Worship. There, appreciate the opportunity to see some familiar faces. Welcome back from Hawaii, I believe it is. Thank you. So, emergency management is critical to have these regular updates for you. Amongst other pieces, is to maintain compliance with the province, to keep council apprised as to where we're going, and I think you're getting a little tired of seeing so much of us during the COVID days, and you saw the stand-up of the ICP and the delivery of all those moving parts, and we shedded a few things as we went along and got a little bit more leaner and more efficient. But of course, as with all plans and all processes and all people, things change, and we lose people, and we have to maintain some compliance and have to maintain some training to be current with any new people coming on. So having said that, part of our requirement here is to establish a bit of an advisory. Under our bylaw, this group is the advisory committee for emergency management. They provide the direction and requests and suggestions to emergency management as to what they want to see. We will provide some suggestions, and then you provide the direction as if you're happy with that direction. Specifically, as DEMs and DDEMs come and go, we need to have them formalized through the minute process. That minute process is captured, we deliver that to the province, so that's clear, and our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed with respect to compliance. And so there's a few things that are outlying there. We've lost 2 DEMs, and the province is very well aware of the fact that we've have interim deputy DEMs, but it's time to formalize those deputy DEMs with those motions in place from you folks. Anyway, from emergency management quarterly, we've decided, is this actually the beginning of this? No, okay. So basically with our structure, organizational structure, we've committed to meet quarterly with Director of Protective Services, Chief Andrew here, and deliver those updates to see, how tight this ship is running and basically where our weak points are. And the philosophy you've heard me embrace over the years from previous council members as well is that we want to maintain a 3-deep philosophy of having 3 people capable of doing every position. And that's been a bit of a challenge with this attrition and this rollover in there. And part of the reason to hold off on that is everybody needed a bit of a relax and exhale from COVID, from doing this. Now it's time to focus on that direction where we're looking. The big piece for us was to look at training locally, train the trainer. And for myself, I've committed and have gone through and done all the academic part of the ICS 200 training. I have just 2 remaining courses, or 2 remaining co-teaches I have to do, and then I can teach 200 completely on my own. I don't think I would, because it's nice to mix it up and bring in like a Brian Boutin or another individual in there to mix up that delivery of that program. So that's a big win, I believe, for ourselves, in the sense that we don't have to send people away to take that 200. We can deliver that in-house. And I think some of the direction that this balding fellow next to me here saw many years ago was the need to train our own firefighters locally. And so the days of people taking 2 weeks off to go to Vermilion every year to take your fire training wasn't happening. Our demographics were shifting. That was a big focus and direction to go into that. We're going to see that a bit on the disaster management or the incident management as well, as to try and do as much in-house training as we can to not disrupt locally as we have. And you're not quite bald. I apologize for that, sir. So, all right. So part of the request on the formal piece would be to ask this group to formally have, by motion, Mr. Chant and Mrs. Lutz formally removed as deputy DEMS, and another motion to formally approve to have Jamie Vasir and Cody Matke appointed to deputy DEMS. Going down the line, basically, Cody and Jamie have both completed their DEM courses. That's a mandatory requirement by the province to make them fulfill those roles. Upcoming ICP remodifications will happen in July and August. Just some light, a little bit of housekeeping pieces, and kind of create disaster in a box, if you want to put it that way, to make it a little easier for people to insert in certain positions of this incident management. And as we go forward, we've got a lot of enthusiasm locally within the town staff, and then there's also some interest that have walked on to our organizations who live locally that are interested in joining and being part of the incident management team as well. Cody has joined up with a CRAMIT, which is Central Alberta Emergency All Hazards Incident Management Team. It's kind of a go-to call-in team. If you're familiar with Task Force 2 and Task Force 3 and 4, I think some military backgrounds would be quite familiar with those ready to go, ready to deploy incident management teams, and they're specialized in the management piece. It's nice to have one locally. It's nice to have that when we run into an incident with a longer duration. We're going to lean on that type of group to fill in some spots. We saw that with Fort McMurray. There was a call in for certain positions, and I got a call from asking to attend, and I believe you did as well, asked to attend the incident management team. Unfortunately, we just work commitments couldn't allow that to happen. And again, I talked about the ICS 200, which I just recently completed the training part of it. So just a page down there. Basically, the two key plans is a business continuity plan and then our emergency management plan. It has to be updated. Obviously, it becomes stale. It's a living document. People come and go. Numbers change. You'll see that even our existing ERP has Jen and Scott as connections. So the update needs to happen. The insertion of the new council connections, phone numbers, all those types of things need to be done. That's a big maintenance item that has to be done, and it's quite taxing because the day you finish it is the day it's stale. And also, we belong to Mountain View Regional Emergency Management. There's an additional plan. It's a lot of our product in there is copied and pasted within their plan. And I was just mentioning to Councillor Ryan this morning that Disbury utilizes that plan more so than they have their own. It's one of those ones where there is a secondary plan in it, but it's nice to know what Mountain View has in our sister communities available for logistics and anything to help us with. Municipalities, mandatory training requirements. Municipalities has adopted the ICS system, and a minimum to see ICS 100 and 200 in the management staff, and then the DEMs have to have a minimum of 300 and up. We must conduct an annual exercise, at minimum a tabletop. We received a buy last year because of our involvement by setting up the ICP that carried on into 2021. This year we're fine with a high level ICS, basically tabletop with just our key leads and our incident management team. We don't have to involve everything right down to the peripherals parts of our management team. We're planning on doing something like that in September. It's going to be something very cursory, tabletop, and AEMA Director Brian Bouton will be helping facilitate that to maintain our compliance on that. And then we're planning for a large-scale mock incident, which we scheduled for 2023. We're communicating with Mountain View Regional on that, see if we can essentially hit two birds with one stone, possibly, and help our partners on that as well. High staff turnover, as we talked about, it has been quite challenging to replenish that 3 deep, but all owned specifically being holding back on that because we did see evidence of the burnout from running ICPs as long as we did. And so it was strategic in the decision to hold back. Now it's time to reinsert some enthusiasm back into this and do some training there. So basically, the annual review piece has a checklist, community self-assessment guidelines. I'll let you know that we do have gold stars on that. We are completely compliant on that. Following today's formal meeting as advisory, and we'll plug in that date, and Brian has indicated that we've met all our compliances for 2022, barring the little tabletop this afternoon in September. Municipal bylaw, I think I've repeated myself on that. So the review for us on the piece on the municipal bylaw is to ask not only you, but we, make those possible suggestions to have a look at a bylaw amendment if we ever need to. And those questions are always available. But there are some pieces in there that we would maybe perhaps view in quarter 4 of 2022 on having a good look at that bylaw to see if it still fits within our groove, if we want to add anything to it. But for now, it's I don't want to rock the boat with any fundamental changes on that bylaw request changes there. So, and our annual review for 2022 will be completed in Q4, and that's conducted by AMA. Mr. Booton has indicated he can do it earlier on or the beginning of like January typically. January to March is typically when they're done, but I like to be drink upstream of that herd and make sure Brian looks at this, and we will have to make any changes, we will, and forecast anything for Q1 the following year, and so we make sure that we're in compliance. And that's basically the overview of that. Is there any questions regarding emergency management?
Thank you very much. I'm certain council might find a question for you, Mr. Powell. I'd open the floor at this time if council has any questions. Well, you were very thorough, I guess. Yes, actually, thank you very much for this presentation. It was very thorough and it was easy reading. Okay, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dole. Thanks, Mr. Powell, for the presentation. I know we've talked about it maybe at a very high level before, but what's the succession plan for yourself, timing and everything?
That's a remarkably good question. The succession plan for myself. Well, if you asked me about an hour ago, I'd say I'm wondering if I'm coming here. No, actually, I'm back to spinning 3 plates again, and I'll be quite honest with you that I am maxed as much as I possibly can, providing you an overview. Fortunately, we've got good background at the time with the team with the conversion, and Melanie providing some last-minute alterations on this submission. We lost a lot of heavy lifting. I'm not going to lie to you. When Jen Lutz left this place, we lost a tremendous amount of heavy lifting when she pulled out. And so I think you have ideas in place and plans in place for that. But as far as I go, I'm, as I said to the previous CAO, I'm expendable, use me. And his answer was, don't worry, we will. And so if you feel that you need to move on or do whatever by all means. And that's the succession for me. It is what it is. I enjoy doing what I'm doing. I enjoy stepping up to the plate when it comes to emergency management and providing some leadership and some guidance and some awareness. But as far as the heavy lifting and navigating through through maintaining the ERP, I don't have a significant amount of time to provide for you for that. So and that's the piece that we're trying to leverage and get someone to help us with that. So. One more.
If there's no more questions, I'll allow Councillor Wilson for another question, please.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. And yes, not necessarily a supplemental, but thank you for the additional question. And you touched on it. I'm just wondering the time commitment relative to the ERP updates. You mentioned you don't have much time. But what does that look like then as far as resourcing that? Is that the DDEMs or somebody else from administration? And roughly how much time is required to do that update of the ERP?
Yeah, you're putting me on the spot on there, and I'm going to actually defer that, and I'll get back to you on what the actual amount of time was. But at one point in time, you did have a 50% FTE, if that, I'm not mistaken. Are you able to address that?
Yeah, so Mrs. Lutz was half-time for emergency management function in the last couple of years, so that's where a lot of this maintenance work was done and the update pieces. So, and again, there's times of the year where it's busier than others, and again, pandemic, we went into it strong because everything was up to date and ready to go, so that was an advantage that we had in that time. So it definitely is a little more time consuming than one would think, especially if there's no emergencies, but the good plan is to be prepared for us.
Very good, thank you very much. If there's no further questions, then I'd ask for a motion to accept for information, or would you like to close? Oh,
Okay, thank you. There are two motions we do require. For
they're separate requests for decision. Thank you, Mr. Powell. Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move that council accept the emergency management update as information.
And once again, thank you for your time for coming here today. I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. Page 18, item 3B, emergency management appointments. Now, this is the portion of our agenda where we will have four motions, please, and I'll ask for the first motion on the floor to remove Jennifer Lutz. Oh, we got three people up over there. We'll start with Councillor Walsh.
Yeah, I would like the council remove Jennifer Lutz from the position of Deputy Director of Emergency Management for the Town of Olds, effective May 24th, 2022.
Thank you. Does council have questions with that? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. And the second motion to remove Scott Chant. We'll go for sorry. And Michelle Honeyman. Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move the council remove Scott Chant and Michelle Honeyman from the positions of Deputy Director of Emergency Management, DDEM, for the Town of Olds, effective May 24th, 2022.
Thank you. No questions. I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. The third motion we're looking for is to appoint Jamie Vasir to the position of Deputy Director. We're going to go over here now. Anybody here? No? Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council appoint Jamie Vasir to the position of Deputy Director of Emergency Management, DDEM, for the Town of Olds, effective today, May 24th, 2022.
Once again, any questions from council? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. And finally, appointment of Cody Matchke. How do you say it? Metke? Pardon me. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I would move that council appoint Cody Medke to the position of Deputy Director of Emergency Management for the Town of Olds, effective May 24th, 2022.
Very good. No further questions. I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? Against? Everybody's voted then? I'm sorry I didn't see you, but thank you. All that's carried. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on. I don't think, Mr. Powell, you're done your business, are you? Very good. You're welcome to stay. Thank you. Item 4, business arising out of the minutes or unfinished business. Seeing none, we'll move down to bylaws. Page 20, Bylaw 2022-11, and this is the amendment of the Mountain View County and Town of Olds Intermunicipal Development Plan. Interim Sheena.
I believe we have Craig Teal joining us on Zoom today to present this item.
If I may just do a quick test. Craig, can you hear us?
I can hear you just fine.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Your Worship, members of council, administration. So last time I promised to bring this item back to council. It's bylaw 2022-11 to amend the intermunicipal development plan with Mountain View County. And council may recall, we had the public hearing on May 9th. And shortly thereafter, the county held their public hearing on a similar bylaw to adopt the same set of changes to our combined or shared intermunicipal development plan. Comments didn't come forward or edits didn't come forward from either of the two public hearings. And both councils have moved to the point of second reading to be able to coordinate. Looks like we don't have that much coordination to really worry about. And it is now up to council to consider third and final reading of bylaw 2022-11. And Mountain View County will consider the same reading, third reading of their bylaw on Wednesday, tomorrow of this week. With that, Your Worship, I'd be happy to field any last questions or maybe council may have about the bylaw.
Well, thank you and welcome, Mr. Teal. At this time, I'd ask council if there's any further questions. It looks like we have no further questions, so I will ask council for third and final reading, please. A motion? Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that council gives third and final reading to bylaw number 2022-11.
Very good. At this time, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. Are you still there, Mr. Teal?
I am, Your Worship.
You have any final comments you'd like to share?
I do not, Your Worship.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us. Now move down to new business. Page 42 of your agenda, item 6A. Sorry. Very good. Today we have the proclamation for Year of the Garden. Interim Sheena?
I will ask Director Wagstaff to speak to this item.
Well, as it stands, 2022 is the Year of the Garden. This was brought to us earlier this spring, brought to our attention. One of the things with regards to flowers, it was to promote red being the color of flowers for this year. However, we do our flower orders in November of each year. And even talking with Holtz College, it was something that was brought to them later as well. They were in a similar sort of circumstance where a lot of their flowers had been already seeded, to be ready in the spring. So that's something, unfortunately, we didn't know in enough time to do some promotion, either with the college or ourselves. Also, speaking with the college, they are going to focus their Year of the Garden on promoting the botanic garden and constructed wetlands, as well as just convert a lot of their regular operations that they do throughout the summer and just add Year of the Garden promotion to it. They're not adding anything on its own special for the Year of the Garden. Again, I think stating the obvious, they do Year of the Garden every year as part of their programming for community programming, Horticulture Week and such. So in speaking with them, we're going to partner and try to help promote the Botanic Garden this year. That was already an initiative that we were working with them on already, to be able to leverage that jewel that we have in our community of the Botanic Garden. So we'll continue to do that and see some joint promotions.
I'll note that you've got a new proclamation that has been given to you to refer to. I do have a question, though. As it's indicated that March 2021, on March 22nd, 2021, the Support of Canada's Garden Family was proclaimed the Year of the Garden. Is there any way we'd be able to tap in to the future so we would be able to prepare for the right colors for the year?
Well, one of the advantages of this particular organization declaring 2022 as the Year of the Garden, I think it brings awareness to many organizations like ourselves that they even exist. So they're now on our radar for the future. I think it's something annually they take a look at, coloring. They also partner with Communities in Bloom. So there's a combination of some things we'll continue to watch as they come forward so that we can, look at that in the future.
That's good to hear. That way we can tap into it as well. Does council have questions? Okay, Councillor Cummings, and then Councillor Blatz, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So my question is for Director Wagstaff there. You did mention that we were too late to change our flower colors to match the Year of the Garden flower colors. What are our colors for this year, and how would a citizen learn that?
We did not have a theme for 2022. So the last couple of years, we have not had themes. They've just been flower orders.
Thank you. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and through you to Director Wagstaff. I noticed here that there's quite a bit of reference back to our Communities in Bloom, and at one point in time, Olds was a very active Community in Bloom community. Are there going to be plans to maybe start that program again? Because I know there a lot of people really liked to volunteer for it and worked very hard to bring Olds up to a very high standard within Communities in Bloom organization. And I think it might be something coming out of pandemic and post-COVID that maybe perhaps we could start looking at for next year. I'm not sure if it would be us that does it or through our community services department, or whether it would be just through initiating some dedicated residents within the community to do it.
There has not been plans or directive to resurrect Communities in Bloom. It was a community-driven, committee. My understanding to the history there was initially, many years ago, before there was flowers on every corner and a very engaged community with regards to putting out flowers from businesses and private individuals, that was the impetus to start it. And then it had a really good run where it ran its course, and then it seemed to, wane as far as the broader support for involvement in keeping that activity running and keeping the committee together. So unless there's a service level discussion that would change that course, no, there's not any plans in place.
Thank you. Further? Councillor Blatz?
Yeah, supplemental. So then perhaps maybe this is a minor or a discussion we could have at service level just to see if there is interest. Maybe perhaps it's not something that we can absolutely do, but I would like to see it discussed at service level.
Thank you, Councillor Blatz. I believe it was initiated in the days that we were very heavily involved with sustainability, and federal government, FCM, spearheaded it. That's where I believe the past history came from. We would have documentation on that anyways. Thank you. Duly noted. Any further questions? All right. Hearing none, then I would ask for a motion, please. Okay, Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that 2022 be proclaimed as Year of the Garden in the town of Olds.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. I would then call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Now we've got that on our radar as well. Moving down to page 47 now, please, which is our proclamation for Seniors Week. Interim Sheena.
I'll ask Michelle Larocque to speak to this item.
The floor is yours, Michelle.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor Dahl, Council and Administration. We have Seniors Week coming up June 6th to 12th. So I want to tell you a little bit about what's going on. Seniors contribute to communities in many ways, of course. They preserve and share history, guide family members, provide counseling, and advocate for change, among many other things. As you know, we have a few of these in our town, or in our community. So in honor of them, we'd like to request that June 6th to 12th be proclaimed as Seniors Week in the town of Olds. We do have a lot of things planned this year. Now that we are restriction-free, I do have a handout for you, and Gary Gaudette, our new facilitator, worked really hard to ensure that there's plenty happening in the community for our seniors this year. So if you want to, Justin, do you mind just take one and pass it around, please? So we are doing a free pancake breakfast at the Evergreen Center on Monday, June 6th. There is going to be an introduction to carpet bowling and floor curling on the same day at the same place. The Aquatic Center has put in a few different classes that week that are going to be fun and engaging for seniors. They're doing a Latino-style aquafit class, a line dancing aquafit class, and a few different classes that way, all of which we're providing free that week. We've partnered with Dairy Queen as well as A&W to give away a few free things. There's ice creams and coffee, etc. And we've arranged for some tours of botanic gardens to happen, as well as other things that you'll see on the schedule there. And that would be all.
Thank you, and this is in the paper for this week. I did see that, so thank you for
Great.
that. I would just ask if you had any seniors or volunteers from the community ask if they could help in any way.
Not directly, we did not, but we are partnering, as I mentioned, with some of the seniors over at the Evergreen Center. So they're helping out and providing some space and things as that. We're also going to be adding, I don't know if Doug wants to speak to this, but we are adding on the schedule as well the award that we are receiving for the age-friendly community, taking place on June 10th when we have the minister coming.
Thank you for that information, and it's a very important day for sure. Any questions from council? Councillor Blatz? So Ryan?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and through you to Ms. LaRocque. I did see this was in the paper, but this will also be on the website too?
Yes,
An easy
absolutely.
link? Okay, perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ryan?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Through you to Michelle LaRocque. I did look at this, and I am very happy to see this come to fruition this year. Obviously, we had COVID for the last two and couldn't really do these events, and this is just a great list of some community events for seniors to celebrate them, and it's a variety that I like. You know, you have. I think the movie at the Mayfair Cinema is very apropos, and I just encourage seniors to get out and to enjoy some of these activities. And thank you very much for yourself and your department, and to all of our sponsors for getting involved in this.
Yes, I concur. Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and through you again to Ms. LaRocque. I see that there's lots of, coffee, tea, pancake breakfast. Are you going to be looking for volunteers to assist in any way? A schedule maybe could come out, and those of us that could be available to volunteer, I'd be willing to, for sure.
We can certainly send something out to council.
Thank you.
Yes, and we'll be able to share that as well. There were some seniors that approached me and asked if there's any way they could help or volunteer as well, so we can get back to you on that. Any further questions? Hearing none, I'd then ask for the motion for Seniors Week. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I would make the motion that June 6th to 12th, 2022 be proclaimed as Seniors Week in the town of Olds.
It's a very interesting week it will be. I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. Well done. Thank you very much for sharing. Item 6C, page 50 of your agenda. There's been, council will not be attending physically FCM this year, so there's been an ask that we rotate our council meeting back to the regular date of a Monday at 1 p.m. And I would like to know if I could get a motion on the floor for this, please. Councillor Walsh?
Happy to make a motion that the council change the meeting date of June 2022 council priorities, policies and priorities meeting to Monday, June 6, 2022, to start at 1 p.m.
Would council have any questions in this regard? Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I do have one question through you, and I'm not sure if this would go to Interim CEO Lenderman or maybe even our legislative clerk, but, I mean, this was a logical choice, but I think maybe it could have been moved ahead a little bit sooner to notify our staff, and my question is, will this affect any of our delegations? Have you already notified all our delegations, and were they coming, and will this be a problem to change it now at this point in time?
Well, there is one external delegation that we'd spoke to about Tuesday. We haven't reached out to speak to them about Monday, and half of that delegation hadn't been confirmed on any time or date yet. So there is that one, and I'm not able to tell you whether or not that would be a conflict for them.
That would be my concern if it was going to be a conflict, because if we've already reached out and given these people a date, then to go ahead and change it now, I'm hoping that it wouldn't be a problem. But that's just my only comment.
Do we know if that delegation was local or would they have to travel?
She is traveling. It's the Rural Physicians Attraction Plan. It is that delegation. The second part of that delegation would be local if they're available, and we hadn't confirmed even if they were available on Tuesday at this point.
We could add and further pending delegations attendance, because if the motion that's on, Councillor Ryan?
Thank you, Mayor Dole. My feeling is that we're still 2 weeks away from the meeting date, and if we haven't got confirmation of them even attending, then it's kind of speculation as to whether they would have even attended on that Tuesday. So I don't see a very big problem with moving it if we haven't got confirmation. So
Thank you for that. That is a good point. Other council comments? Councillor Blatz.
Well, seeing that who the delegation is, and knowing that they're probably an extremely busy individual, I would disagree that it could be a conflict. I think that if we've already reached out and given them a date, they're probably planning their schedule around the said date. So that's just, I want to throw it out there just so people are aware. Because I would hate for this delegation not to come forward because we've changed it, because it's something we've been asking for some time.
I do agree that we have been asking. However, the comment from Director Wagstaff for me is that they have not confirmed yet if it would be good or not for them, and they've got 2 more weeks for that confirmation. But we'll leave it up to council. We have a motion on the floor from Councillor Walsh, and we could make the choice through your vote, unless you'd like to add further comments, more further comments. Okay. Seeing none, we have the motion on the floor from Councillor Walsh to change the meeting date to June 6th, starting at 1 p.m. I will now call for the vote. Those in favor? Those opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Very good, valid point that you've brought to the table. I'd go to reports from council at this time, page 51. And we're going to start Councillor Blatz. We'll start Councillor Blatz and we'll go around and then back up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. And I did email this morning my full report for the past period. I attended all the regular meetings and also attended the Coyote Cup. I volunteered and was a participant in our town booth, and I did find the tours to the Mountain View Seniors Housing very informative, and it was a good tour, and we will be touring this week the Sundre and Olds locations, and I did attend the OPAC meeting, which we did have a presentation from the high school regarding social media, which was also very informative, and that's all included in my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Your Worship. So in addition to the regular attendance at our regular meetings and whatnot, I attended 3 events. One was, of course, McHappy Days at McDonald's. Last I heard, they had raised $734,000 For Ronald McDonald House, now that's not here in Olds alone. They own many McDonald's between Calgary and Olds. But we were pretty busy at ours. That's the last time I worked at McDonald's was like 38 years ago, so it was a fun experience. I also got an opportunity to attend a virtual meeting with AB Muni on the Brown Bag series for its EPR, not ERP, because they were trying to be funny with the title. A short briefing on their extended, or on the province's extended producer liability laws, which come into effect at the end of June this year, and how that affects our municipal government. And of course, it does affect us quite a bit, and that right now we're paying for recycling to be done in our community. And this program, the goals of this program is that 100% of that funding for the recycling program would be transferred to the industries that produce the waste that is recycled. And there's in two parts. There is the regular recycling that we all do at home, the blue bin recycling, and then the hazardous waste, household hazardous waste program. That one's the easier one to describe. So right now all that material is dropped off at the Didsbury landfill for us. And then it is collected at the Didsbury landfill site. So the Mountain View Regional Waste Management Commission would process that and conduct all that recycling on our behalf. The rest of the recycling, that blue bin pickup contract, as well as the recycling bins, will be transferred to through cooperation between the town and this new agency that's being set up. It would be us getting involved with them to have them take over the process or pay us to continue doing the process, one way or the other. So that's end of June, and there's quite a bit of extensive information on the AB Muni website about that. The other one I got a great chance to do was the Alberta Health Services held a community engagement forum on something called Connect Care. So Connect Care replaces a bunch of previous systems that Alberta used to use to manage our personal medical information. And our region is scheduled to be connected to this system on November the 6th of this year. So as of November the 6th, we can visit a Alberta Health Services facility and connect ourselves to Connect Care, which is an app that we can then use to administer our own medical information as citizens, and to schedule appointments with Alberta Health Services, to have chats with our doctors who are employed with Alberta Health Services, if you have such doctors. What we found through the conversation, though, is this is not something that's connected to our family doctors. So Wild Rose Clinic and the Parkside Medical Clinic, they won't have access to this information at all. They'll have access to the information the way they are currently accessing the information. But all Alberta Health Services facilities will eventually connect to this one program, this one system, in all of their ways. So some of the things they talked about that are side benefits of this is that every single hospital, every single Alberta Health Services facility will have broadband Wi-Fi set up in their facilities paid for by Alberta Health Services. I believe ours is currently supplied by ONET, but paid for by volunteers or by donation, something like that. But it would be taken over by the province, as well as all new equipment for this communication process. So that was sort of like a side effect to the system. There is quite a bit of information on this service through the Alberta Health Services ahs.ca/connect care. But one other point that was brought up is the primary care physicians will also not have access to this system. So in Olds, I believe we're dealing with the hospital will be connected to the system. I don't know offhand of any other Alberta Health Services facilities in Olds. Maybe somebody else does and can share. The system is going to be called My AHS Connect. It's an app that's available on your phone or tablet or computer from any of the services, iPhone or Apple Store or Google Store or whatever. And that's about it.
Thank you. It's a lot of information to try and,
Sorry, I forgot to mention there are PowerPoint presentations that are supposed to be on their way to me. When I get those, I'll share them off to everybody on those 2 presentations.
thank you, Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I just would strongly suggest that when we have this type of information, perhaps a written report should be forthcoming, so that we don't miss anything. Verbatim sometimes is a little bit hard to capture all of the information. So, and I believe it is in one of our policies, correct me if I'm wrong, that we would be supplying a written report at the end of, or the third time, or so, just for information. Thank you.
You. Well, you'd have to remind me if it is, because quite often we are hit and miss with reports. So I'm going to leave that to my individual councillors. Councillor Daly?
Thank you, Your Worship. So along with the regular council meetings, PMP, OFL board, CAO conversations, I also attended, of course, the strategic planning sessions that we had for 3 days, which was very productive, and I found them very interesting as far as the approach that we took, and found it to be very productive those days. I've also attended the economic development launch of the logo and the Invest Olds program, which I'm looking forward to some great outcomes from that. Also volunteered at the Coyote Cup as well, and that was a great experience to see the community of Olds out again and rebounding after our time being shut in. It was good to see everybody out. And then also attended the neighborhood mingle event put on by Olds Regional Exhibition, which was the town of Olds, the county, and ORE meeting together for a social event. And as well as I've attended one Olds Chamber meeting in the past, and that was prior to the guest speaker that they had come in for a noon hour lunch session, and so I'll get the information on that at the next meeting. So, thank you.
Good. Thank you for sharing. Just a note that your monthly council reports are typically, for example, this is April 26th, the May 24th, and then we can report on a lot of the things we've already done for the next following month. But thank you very much. That's good information. We'll go with Councillor Ryan and work our way back up, please.
Thank you very much, Mayor Dahl. I submitted a written report and circulated it to all of council, as well as passed on to our interim CEO and our legislative clerk, so they already have the copy. Just want to speak to a couple of little things within that. From the Parkland Regional Library meeting, there was a ton of discussion. Probably took up more time than the audit, which is totally surprising considering how long-winded those auditors are. The discussion focused on the master agreement. So the master agreement was signed by all the communities that are partners within the Parkland Regional Library. There is some concern that was raised by a couple of people in our area with regards to the wording of the master agreement. All of this is due to the use of the population figures. Now, the population figures that used to be out of the municipal affairs, and municipal affairs is no longer producing those and have referred people to Treasury Board numbers, which are estimates only right at the moment. All of the communities in the Mountain View County region were all overestimated as to numbers. Our concern was that using these inflated numbers wasn't a true accounting of the actual numbers that we have. So there was quite a long debate about it. The lawyers even got involved in the wording of the master agreement, because if we didn't use municipal affairs numbers and we're using Treasury Board numbers, I suggested that should be reflected within the master agreement, and if we were going to use federal census numbers, then that would have to be reflected in the master agreement. So right at the moment, we're having a conversation with regards to that. People have accepted that there might be a need for a change to the master agreement. and this would take quite a long time, apparently. If we were doing it within the next 13 months, that would need 100% approval from every community to change the master agreement. If we're taking longer than that, we need 2/3 of a majority. So it's quite an undertaking to do that, but it might be something that we might want to pursue. As a council, I am actually going to have a meeting, or I've asked to have a meeting with the reps from our area, which would include Mountain View County as well as Carstairs, Didsbury, and Cremona, to see whether or not there's any interest in pursuing any kind of change to the master agreement, given its difficulty of doing so. So once I have that, I will come back to council with any kind of recommendation. But I just thought I'd let you guys know what the situation was, and the fact that we're still going to be, we're as a Parkland Regional Library, we'll be still using the Treasury Board numbers as no new number has come available. Although even on Municipal Affairs website, it did say that they would be looking at using the federal census numbers is part of the Treasury Board number that would be coming forward later on. They were supposed to do something this spring. It hasn't happened. But hopefully something will be done before the end of the year in order to get a more realistic number for when we do our requisition. So that's my update on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ryan. We'll move over to Councillor Walsh, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I missed the ORE social night. I had to go to a library board meeting. But having been there, they've asked me to extend the council a thanks for the cost of living increase on their budget. They really appreciate that. So that's a thank you from the board of the library. Also, they're having a fundraiser. William Hannigan, it's July 11th. Tickets are available. It's a comedian. Yeah, it's comedy, but it's supposed to be pretty good, and it's pretty awesome, so it's $25 a person. If you ever have the opportunity to attend on June 11th at 7 p.m., that would be appreciated. I attended a South Red Deer Regional Wastewater, it's called an Operation and Tech Committee. I'm on that committee, and it's only a twice a year meeting, but it's basically looking at the line, the maintenance, and how that all affects it. But just an interesting tidbit that's come out of that is that since 2016, Olds has reduced its I&I by about 25% that goes into the system. So that's about a savings of $500,000 to the town of Olds. But on the flip side, Town of Olds has cost the whole system more money because it raises prices. They're fixed costs, basically, so when the revenue side of it, the flows to Red Deer are reduced. They have to find the funds through raising rates. So it'd be interesting to see a cost-benefit analysis on that whole system for municipalities. But other than that, that's all I have to report. Other than attended all the other. Actually, the strategic planning session was quite interesting. I found that quite a worthwhile event that the town participated in.
Thank you very much. No questions? Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and I'll be brief. I attended the Mountain View Region Water Commission monthly meeting, and it was actually a combination, our monthly meeting and the second part of our 10-year plan strategic review. We spent a fair bit of time talking about projects and the timing of some large capital projects coming up, deferring the start of some of those projects either into later this or later in the 2020 cycle, or 2019, 2029, 2030 cycle. And the impacts, certainly what we're seeing now in terms of inflation and the cost of borrowing. It was mentioned that the 25-year rate from the Alberta Capital Finance Authority has basically doubled in the last 6 months. So we didn't spend a lot of time trying to predict where things were going to go, but just potential impact. Other than that, the plant continues to operate as it should, no issues there. I did also participate in the hour-long Zoom meeting for Alberta Health Services. It was very interesting. And just, I won't repeat what's been previously said, other than there are about 1,300 touch points and information points, and what this new patient portal is going to look to do is consolidate and bring all those information streams, including electronic and, not surprising, or maybe surprising, handwritten as well, into an electronic format. So it should greatly enhance the patient experience as well as overall healthcare. And as was mentioned, that launch is scheduled for our zone into November. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. And I think they're looking at about 30,000 potential users for our zone. And then lastly, just an update on the rural entrepreneur stream. When I last looked on the weekend, I think there are 16 communities that have signed up for that rural entrepreneur stream. So we shall see what the coming weeks bring as far as possibilities. Thanks.
Thank you very much. My report has been handed into the legislative clerk for the minutes. April 27 to 28, of course, we had the strategic planning sessions held in town this year. Council identified what the community's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats looked like. We developed goals and results for each goal, and I see that we now have the draft back in our mail from Interim CAO for everybody to look at as of today. April 29th, attended with greetings a full house volunteer appreciation evening. The networking of stories this year shared brought people together after a pause of COVID events, and they were very happy to be there. April 30th, attended with greetings the 102nd Provincial Chapter of Alberta Imperial Order Daughters of Empire. I like to say that because a lot of people don't understand that IODE locally, who they are. Now, this Alberta chapter together raised $100,000 and donated it to the Alberta Council of Women's Shelters toward family violence programs. And they are aware of that. I have informed them. So the dollars are strictly, they're trying to target new builds and trying to help with children that arrive. April 30th, the Olds Hospital fundraiser event again was held at the Olds Regional Exhibition, Cow Palace, and it was a great success, I understand, and it was a full house. It was a great event. Also attended May 1st with Greetings Annual Hospice Hike and participated in the walk, and I believe they were a great success again this year, is what I was told. And we've had 2 meetings so far this month, not including today. May 3rd to 8th, along with fellow councillors, we volunteered to the Coyote and Pinty's Grand Slam Curling Championships. I just once again want to thank and send a bouquet to all the volunteers locally and from surrounding communities, and all the volunteers within the region for the success of the event. And May 5th, Deer Meadow School had a grade 6 education class for question period on local issues. The students were very, very well prepared by their teacher, and the students certainly did have strong skills and background in the way politics and work is done in this community. The students were very ready to participate with good questions. May 9th, the Town of Olds Economic Development Office launched and revealed the Invest Olds, and a lot of us were already there. And also as an alternate, I attended the Old Police Advisory meeting, and Councillor Blatz brought some great remarks back on her report of what followed from that meeting. I believe the staff sergeant will be coming to our council meeting in the near future to bring some great updates for council. Along with that, OFL board continues to meet. And I just want to say that I took a walk to the Fair Trade Day down to Uptown Olds and met Natalie Best, who is an importer of fair trade products. And we really need to recognize and acknowledge our fair trade chair, Bev Taves. She spent a lot of long hours going back and forth and working with fair trade that day and promoting fair fair trade products in Olds. So we have to remember that she's doing a good job on our behalf. And that concludes my report. I would ask if there's no further questions to any of the reports here, if I could get a motion on the floor, please, to accept. Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that the reports from council authorities, boards, committees, and commissions ending May 24th, 2022 be received for information.
Very good. Thank you very much, council members, for your reports. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Now we will be moving down to page 62, and this is our quarterly financial position update. And I will ask Interim Sheena to speak to.
Thank you, Mayor. Today it is a 2022 capital budget adjustment. So on May 9th, Council approved the purchase of the 7 Bergen rocks located on Highway 27. So today we're just needing a motion to formalize where this funding would come from. It is being suggested that we use the ATCO franchise fee reserve, which is dedicated to arts and culture. That reserve is currently sitting at $340,046. The purchase of the 7 rocks is $94,500.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. I'm going to ask council if they have any comments or questions. Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I just guess a comment type of question. I reviewed the minutes or rewatched the minutes from that meeting, and I know that there was a discussion at the time that we would possibly use both the Olds Destination Collective Fund and the ATCO surplus. Now, reading the Olds Destination Fund, it says we cannot utilize it for any capital projects. It must be operating costs only. So that is something which is really unfortunate, because the purpose of the Olds Destination Fund was for tourism, partly for tourism. So I think that was, my first comment was, why aren't we using it? And then I did the research this morning. So, but I just want to ensure that our residents realize that where the funding is in fact coming from, and where it'll be, because we've had both positives and a couple of negative comments as well. And further to that, will we be concluding those letters in our next council meeting? Because most of them didn't come forward in time to be included with this meeting. But both comments, negative and positive, I think should be included for the general public to review. That's just my comments for this. Thank you.
Any further comments? Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. And I don't know if this is the appropriate forum, given that we're focused on the budget adjustment, but I'll ask anyway, question of Director Wagstaff. What is the plan going forward as far as the pathway, the sculpture pathway, the art pathway, public engagement, engaging with the Public Art Advisory Committee, and coming up with an art tourism plan?
I would think that would be a point of order. That's not to the business that we have on our agenda right now that's on the floor. Thank you anyways. Councillor Ryan?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Just a question for Interim CEO Lenderman. So just further to the comment that Councillor Blatz made, is there a reason why, like, I guess I can understand being capital, but I didn't know whether this was considered capital costs. Maybe could you explain that a little?
Yes, definitely. So any arts and culture are considered capital. It doesn't matter the value, as art is subjective in its value. Anything that is considered arts and culture is capital.
Okay, thank you very much. Did not know that. Thank you.
That's why we learn something new every day. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, then I'd ask for a motion to put this on the floor. Councillor Walsh?
Yeah, I would move that council approves the adjustment to the 2022 approved budget, or capital budget, in the amount of $94,500 for a total 2022 capital budget of $6,783,000 got that wrong. $6,783,462 is presented.
Okay, you did get this, that's correct. Councillor Walsh has a motion on the floor. I'm going to ask one final time if there's any questions. Seeing none then, I do agree. Councillor Blatz has noted that we did have some letters. We didn't have many, but actually they were even. We had 4 positive comments and a couple that had questions. Yes, so we'll find, I would ask administration, we've been dealing with how to deal with letters that come in this regard. Now, was there a final conclusion on how we were going to put letters from the public into our council agendas?
Point of order.
Oh, yes.
There's a motion on the floor. I don't think this is a conversation related to the motion.
Well, the problem is that, okay, that's fair. I agree. That's fair. We have a motion on the floor from Councillor Walsh, and we can revisit that at a different time. Thank you. I will call for the vote then. Those in favor of the motion that was on the floor? Those opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Very good. We will move down to correspondence and information, page 63, please. Item 9A, excuse me, 9A. So I'll ask for a motion on the floor, and then we can discuss any of the items as council wishes. Motion, please. To put the motion on the floor, Councillor Walsh.
I move that the correspondence information report ending May 24th, 2022 be received for information.
Yes, and I open the floor to council for any questions that you have with regards to any of these items. Seeing none then, we will move forward then to calling for the motion. I will call for the vote, sorry. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. This brings us to conclude the regular portion. We will be moving into a closed meeting. I will, when council goes into the closed session for continued participation in the virtual council meeting, stay online in the live stream meeting platform, and the meeting stream will be replaced by a graphic and music will play. When the music stops, the meeting is going to be reconvening. I would ask at this time for a motion to move in closed. Councillor Cummings.
So I move that council move into a closed session for FOIP Section 25, Section 17, Section 16, Section 27. I believe that's all of the sections. Nope. Did I miss Section 17?
No, you did say Section 17, that's correct.
This is a combination of topics, including naming rights, board updates from Councillor Ryan, legal advice provided by our legal team, and an operations building update from the administration.
Thank you. We will be moving in. Yes, go ahead, Council. Yes, the attendees. Yes, that's correct. Interim CAO.
I would like to ask that Director Wagstaff stay for item number 2 and Director Greco stay for item number 3.
Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. There was also an item for personnel, and my 2 items will be just the CAO. Thank you.
So as the closed section item number 5 was deleted, can we put the new added item as personnel number 5? Okay, thank you. For item 5 then, just the CAO. Very good, and the time going to closed session is 2:12 p.m. Yes, Legislative Clerk.
Okay, so for item number 1, which is FOIP Section
Welcome back to the regular council meeting of May 24th. We are now at our Rise and Report section of our agenda. I would ask for a motion, please, for item 1, section 25, board update. Councillor Ryan?
Thank you, Mayor. I would move that we accept the board update for information.
I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Item 2, Section 17, naming rights. Motion on the floor from Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council direct administration to present a naming recommendation to council at the June 27th, 2022 regular council meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Blatz. I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Item 3, Section 16, Operations Building Update. Call for a motion, please. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I would move under section 16 that we receive for info the Operations Center update.
Thank you. I'm going to call for the vote around the table at this time. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Item 4, Sections 16, 25, and 27, and this is legal advice. Councillor Daly?
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Worship, I move that no new information was given on this point, and we take it for information for what was there.
So no report, and there's no further questions. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And item 5, Section 17, personnel. Councillor Ryan, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I just move that to accept the personnel report for information. Is that?
Very good. Thank you. I'm going to call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Very good. Thank you, council members, and I would now ask for a motion for adjournment. Councillor Walsh?
Yeah, I move that we adjourn the May 24th meeting.
At 3:28 p.m. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.